Going through a breakup is tough, and it can be easy to try to put on a brave face and just push through for all of your other responsibilities, like your job. But pushing through might look like everything is okay on the surface, maybe, but unless you address it head on, all the things lurking in those corners will eventually come out, probably in inopportune times and places. So when we face ourselves and get to the root of the emotions, we realize that this is all temporary, and we can start to heal. My guest today shares brilliant insights as to how we can navigate through these difficult situations, like going through a breakup, while remaining kind and true to ourselves. And if you've enjoyed today's episode, be sure to write a review on Apple Podcasts. This is how we bring awareness so more people get to hear this awesome podcast. Empowered educators empower each other, and I am so grateful for you as you were listening to today's episode. Thank you. Remember all the passion and vision you had when you first went into teaching? Feeling like building young minds and creating community through your work would make a lasting impact on this world? Well, those days may feel like they're behind you now because you're exhausted, stressed, and overwhelmed and frustrated, but I'm here to tell you it doesn't have to be like this. In fact, the love of teaching never really went away, but it absolutely needs transformation. Welcome to the Take Notes podcast. I'm Jen Rafferty, former music teacher, mom of two, and certified emotional intelligence practitioner, and I'm here to light the way for you. In order to create a generational change for our kids, we need to shift the paradigm away from the perpetual stress and overwhelm and into a life of joy and fulfillment. This is Education 2.0, where you become the priority, shift how you live your life, and how you show up both at work and at home. So take a sip of steamy morning coffee and grab your notebook. It's time to take notes. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Take Notes. I'm here with Tal Yardeni, and she is known as the breakup recovery coach. And having gone through one of her own heartbreaks and being on the other side of it, she is super passionate about helping women let go of their ex, learn to love the F out of themselves, and be ready for their best relationship yet. And she does this with her life-changing coaching program, the Breakup to Badass Formula. Hi, Tal.
Hello. Happy to be here.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing your time and being here with me today in the Take Notes audience, because breakups suck and they're so hard. And when you were going through that and having to show up for your job, particularly when you're dealing with kids and you don't have a break during the day and you feel like you have to put on a brave face or whatever story you might be telling yourself, that adds to so much of the stress that you are already going through. So let's just dive in. And can we just talk about what that's even like? How do we navigate through some of this?
Yeah, so I can completely empathize with that. I remember when I was going through my own breakup and just having to show up. At the time, I was a performer, so I was a singer and actress in the city. I just felt like I was so depleted. And then I was having to show up for these auditions. And in auditions, you're like at a 10. It's like opening night of a Broadway show when you're going into an audition. So you have to be your best. And so when you feel like you have nothing to give, it's just like you're already at a 0. And then already having to give from that empty tank, you really are left with nothing. So when you're talking about, especially teachers, I have had so many clients who are teachers, and at the beginning stage of the program, they're kind of in the spot where they just feel so empty. And so they're showing up to their classrooms and they're almost on edge because they feel like I can't be present. I feel like I'm failing. I'm not doing a great job and I have nothing left to give. So one of the things that we talk about is where can we scale back in our lives? Because this isn't really the time to, people like to busy themselves, and it's really not the time to busy yourself. So of course you have to show up to your job, but where can you scale back in your life so that you can at least have some of that energy to give during those hours? So we look at that and and it's customized in a way because everyone kind of has a different schedule. Are you a mother? What do you have going on in your home life? What other obligations do you have? But there are definitely places where we can look and go, right now, this is not the time for this. Right now, this is not the time for this. This is also where we're putting boundaries in. If you're especially a person who's so available to everybody, this is not the time to be available to everybody because you have to be available to yourself as you navigate this heartbreak.
Yeah. And I resonate with the busying yourself very much, especially before my ex-husband and I decided to eventually just like call it. We were going to have a divorce. The times before then that were really hard and painful, the way that I would cope with them was getting really busy. I dove into, I mean, this is the nerdy side of me. I dove into my research. I dove into writing my book. I was so distracted by everything by design. So I wouldn't actually have to take a look in the mirror and feel all of the really painful feelings and be confronted with some very difficult decisions that I knew deep inside I would have to make. So can we talk a little bit about that too? Because this is wisdom that I've gained years later, looking back on this. But in the moment, that almost felt like a survival tactic that I needed to busy myself in order to push away the pain that I know is imminent.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you for sharing that because I'm sure that so many people listening can relate to this. So yeah, it's a protective mechanism in a way, right? You're protecting your heart because from having to feel the deep pain, because we really think there's a part of us that feels like, oh my God, if I have to face this, I won't be able to bear it. So I'm going to do everything that I can to avoid feeling this feeling. But that saying, the only way out is through, that is a saying for a reason. And so any deep healing work, we have to feel fully. We have to learn how to self-regulate so that the feelings don't have to feel so overwhelming, that we can sit with what we're feeling without the shame and they'll be able to pass so that you can actually get to the other side. But if we're always busying ourselves in our lives, you're avoiding that deep healing work.
Totally. Yeah, that's exactly what it was. And it just prolonged itself until I was ready to deal with it, which happened to also coincide with the pandemic where I was quite literally alone dealing with my feelings.
Yes. You're forced into it.
Right. But you don't have to wait for another pandemic to deal with your feelings, I suppose is the message here.
Yeah, but listen, it came when it needed to for you, right? It sounded like you were not ready before. And so I think it did a lot of this for a lot of people during the pandemic is that we were forced to look at ourselves because everyone at the same time had to shut down. Everything was shut down. Everything was taken away from us at the same time. And we all had to sit with ourselves.
Yeah. And so let's talk about shame for a minute. Everyone's favorite topic, shame. But it is part of the healing process. And in order to really go there and do the deep healing that's so necessary, we need to talk about shame in a way that brings it to light because it is a normal thing that we all feel. And it also becomes easier to navigate when we can talk and understand it more. So can you share a little bit about some of the shame that is felt during some of these difficult times?
Oh, yeah. One that I hear a lot is feeling like you failed in the relationship, feeling like you failed as a mother because you're choosing to walk away from something, feeling like you stayed too long. So those are probably my top three. I know there are many others, but those are the top three that I hear the most. And there's so much shame around it. I should have known better. Maybe I didn't try hard enough. What if I would have done this? What if I would have been that? And so when I'm working with my clients, we really look at that and I'm like, first of all, I will never invalidate what you're feeling because this is what's coming up for you. But what is going to help you with the shame, with the thoughts that are coming at you all the time is how do you speak to yourself? Because what we want to do is we want to start befriending ourselves. We want to become essentially our own best friend. So I always say the way that you would speak to a child, the way that you would speak to someone you love the most, if they were coming to you and saying these things, how would you respond to them? Because most likely you don't say those same things to yourself. If we spoke to other people the way that we speak to ourselves, we would have no friends.
So true. It'd be very lonely existence.
Right? We are so hard on ourselves. It's like zero grace, perfectionism, not allowed to mess up. And so in life moments like this is really that time to befriend yourself and say, you know what? I was doing the best that I could at that time. And I can understand how it would feel like I'm failing by choosing to walk away. But actually, I'm honoring myself by walking away because this is a really hard thing to do. It's incredibly brave to walk away from something. It's incredibly brave to walk away from a family.
Absolutely. And that judgment that because we all do it, even those of us who've been doing this work for so long, there are layers of this that it's not like it all goes away one night. It's more of the awareness piece, right? It's like, oh, I'm catching myself doing this now. But we all do this. And this judgmental voice, or your shitty committee, is what I like to call it. It's the one where it's always like, well, I should be this, I should be that. And as soon as you start shoulding on yourself, that that's coming from a place of harsh judgment. And I loved what you said about, how would you speak to a child about this? Because essentially, those of you who've been hanging out here for a long time understand this too, is that we are talking to our inner child. Our inner child is the one that's feeling shame right now. Our inner child is the one that's feeling not good enough and a failure. And in these moments, we have this beautiful opportunity to rewire our brains and our networks in a way that we get to parent our younger selves. And for me, a big piece of that, separate from the grace, maybe a part of the grace, was self-forgiveness. And that I didn't really understand, because I will say, for such a long time, I was feeling all of this anger and all of this resentment. And I assumed that all of this was about my ex. But through this work, and I know you know where I'm going with this because you're laughing. So through this work, I realized, oh shit, I am angry and resentful at younger versions of me. And it wasn't until I had that realization that I was even able to go into a place of self-forgiveness. So what happened then, of course, was this beautiful moment where, as you said, younger Jen, you did the best you could with the information you had at that time. And I'm actually at a place right now where I am so grateful for her, because I'm here now, like literally talking to you. And if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be here in this moment. So I kind of like glazed over the big, broad strokes of how that happened for me. But that, of course, takes time, intention, and recommitment. But can you talk a little bit about that process?
Yeah, of course. So I loved what you said, because it's not about the ex, it is about you. And so the difference between a woman who wants to heal and move forward and a woman who's stuck and can't seem to move forward is that she's stuck in the story. So it's all about the ex. It's all about what they did to me. How could they? And there's like zero self-reflection going on. And so why is it so important that we look at ourselves and we do that deep inventory? Because there's nothing that we can do about that other person. We can't change them, right? The only person that we have agency over is ourselves. That's the only person. So, of course, when you start to look at yourself, which is very hard to do, it's not about really forgiving your ex as much as it is about forgiving yourself. So it's exactly what you said. Because when you forgive yourself, you free yourself.
Yeah. And that's so powerful. And what I've noticed that in doing that work for me, my interactions with my ex have become so much more pleasant. And that's not to say that we haven't had our ups and downs over the last few years, but in general, once I really got there, I changed. So our interactions changed. And I think that's the whole thing, right? You can only change yourself. And it's cliche because it's true. You need to be the change that you want to see. And it's so easy to just point fingers and blame at all the external things, particularly an ex, as a cause for how you're feeling. But at the end of the day, the only thing you have agency in is yourself, your actions, your thoughts, your language, your beliefs, your stories that you choose to subscribe to. So let's unsubscribe to the ones that aren't serving us.
Exactly. Because really, I'm not going to take away from, there might have been really painful things that happened in that relationship, right? So when I'm talking about forgiveness of self and also forgiving your ex, it's not excusing the behavior. It's just that you're no longer letting that behavior hold you in bondage.
Right. That's where the freedom comes in.
Mm-hmm.
So something you mentioned earlier before we were recording is this idea of what rom-coms have taught us about our self-worth. And I love this because, especially as a parent and going through a divorce and doing my own personal growth work, I look at what the media and the movies and the TV shows they're consuming, and it really paints such a false picture of what things actually are, which then sets our expectations to this, I was going to say a ridiculous level, but it's almost as if it's on another planet.
Yes, it's a fantasy.
It's a total fantasy. And so this is kind of perpetuating our idea of what it means to have and that we need to earn our worth, which is also complete bullshit. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So as I was working with women and I really was researching, kind of looking at the psychology behind, there are certain patterns that we subscribe to, and where does this come from? And a lot of it has to do exactly with what we consumed growing up and what mainstream media is showing us is so ass backwards from what a healthy relationship is. So first of all, we're not taught healthy relationships. They're rarely modeled. And when you look at rom-coms, they're certainly not modeled. You know, that Jerry Maguire line, "You complete me," is honestly like one of the most dangerous lines out there, because basically you're saying, I am not a complete human unless I'm with another person. And now that person is going to validate me. And now I am complete. So what kind of message are we sending to young women? That doesn't matter your accomplishments. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter your values. It doesn't matter your contribution to the world. Unless you're in a relationship, you're not complete. Your life doesn't begin. And so when we're looking at rom-coms, it's really there's like a savior mentality happening. There's also like this woman, she's so accomplished. She's got so much going on in her life, and she's got friends, she's got everything, but she doesn't have the man. And it's so toxic. It's so toxic, but it's what we've grown up with. So we think that relationships that don't feel stable, that's normalized. We feel that we need to fix someone. So if it's like that bad boy, oh, well, I'm going to be the one to change him. Honey, you can't change anybody. We just discussed this. But this is what's shown to us. And then if you listen to music, oh my gosh. And listen, I love love. And there's nothing wrong with partnership. But I want you to have a healthy partnership, not one that's based on codependency.
Sure. And obligation to a societal expectation.
Yes, exactly. Like there's nothing wrong with you if you're single, and there's nothing wrong with you if you're in partnership. Neither are good or bad. It's really what you are looking like. Really, what is your why behind the partnership? Is it growth and expansiveness and a wonderful journey together? Or is it, I'm incomplete, I'm unhappy, and I'm looking for someone else to fill my void? Those are different relationships.
They really are. And that's where it becomes about putting your self-worth up for negotiation with this other person. So let's talk about that, because all of these things are easily transferable to friendship relationships and coworker relationships and parent-child relationships, even teacher-student relationships. Like these are just relationships, right? And so it's these topics, even though we're focusing right now on perhaps romantic relationships and those kinds of partnerships, this is about all sorts of relationships, mother-daughter relationships. And so this idea of self-worth in those relationships is tricky sometimes because, like you said, in this kind of desire or need to feel complete, we allow a door to open for somebody else to say, yes, you are worthy, or no, you are not. And that roller coaster ride is just one you don't have to get on.
Absolutely. Because when you're basing your worth on external circumstances, then you're absolutely right. It will be a roller coaster because it will always be dependent on what's coming at you. How is that person feeling? How are they reacting? In a sense, you're not in control. When you come from a place of knowing that you are innately worthy, and it has nothing to do with your job title, it has nothing to do with you being a mother, it has nothing to do with your accomplishments. We are just innately worthy because we're here and alive, period. It is such a different place to come from because then you are not dependent on whether another person sees that you did the great job, whether another person sees the value that you're bringing into the classroom. Because I'm great at what I do. I'm going to show up as myself. I'm here to serve. And here we go. And it's not going to be dependent on, well, did the parents notice how I'm affecting their kids? That, all the chatter.
It's noisy.
Yes.
And it's loud right now.
Very.
It's very loud. Everything is very loud right now. And it seems challenging sometimes to block out all of the noise. But here's where the work comes in, right? Because the work happens when you get quiet and you get quiet with yourself and you start to prioritize the things that are really important to you. And you get to look at all of the relationships in your life and ask yourself, is this serving me? Am I showing up in a way that's aligned with who I want to be? And those questions seem easy and simple, but it takes time and they can be painful. And sometimes when the answer is no, well, then you need to make some pretty important decisions in your life.
Oh, absolutely. The women that I work with, they think they're coming into a program to get over their ex, but what they come out with is so much more because relationships, like you said, are relationships, whether romantic, platonic, coworker environments, whatever it is. And so when you're working on this area of your life, it's going to permeate into other areas of your life. And you're not going to be able to ignore it anymore.
Right. Well, my favorite Greg Brady line is wherever you go, there you are.
Yeah.
And that's just it. So when you start doing the healing and the growth, you are that way everywhere, which is great news.
It's beautiful because we're no longer abandoning. So for me, when people ask me to describe self-worth or self-love, I always say in a nutshell, it's when you're no longer willing to abandon yourself. And so it means that you are really checked in with what's coming up for you in any given situation, so that you're no longer having to people please. You're no longer having to put on a brave face. You're no longer having to pretend to be okay with things you're not okay with. You have a voice and you're able to take a stand. And you're also not afraid to take up space. You don't have to play small anymore. We were not put on this earth to play small and dim our light. If you want to affect change in the world, you've got to take up space and you've got to shine freaking bright. And that may sound corny, that may sound whatever, but that's really why we're here.
Oh, 100%. Preach. Yes. Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, that's just it. And unfortunately, what happens is when we are little, we have messages implicitly and explicitly that it's dangerous to take up space. We don't want to brag. We don't want to be too much. We don't want to be too loud. And so we shrink and then we grow up and we're wondering why we're here, which brings me to this next piece of this is why it's so important for us as the adults in these spaces to do this work, because it's not just about us. It is about the generation that is watching us. So can you talk a little bit about that too?
Yeah, absolutely. It's so important because like we've talked about how we grew up, right? We grew up with rom-coms and things that were just not really healthy for us as we were growing into our teenage years and what love was and all of that for us. And so now imagine that young women and young men are being taught the exact opposite of that. And it's being modeled by people being in motion and being that. Now what's going to be ingrained in their minds? That's going to be normalized for them. And that's so important because we want that to be normalized. We want it to be normalized that you take care of you first, not because it's selfish. It's not selfish. I hate when people say that. Oh my God, it's so selfish to do that. So selfish when people say that. No, it's not. There's nothing selfless about you putting yourself last and taking care of everybody else. Because honestly, you're not at your best when you have to take care of everybody else. You haven't taken care of yourself. So really selfless, like take care of yourself so you can be at your best to take care of others.
Absolutely. And that's the message that is so important in the work that I do with my folks in these spaces also, because when we are not just in relationships with people, but also if you're a parent and if you are in a profession where you are also serving, whether you're, a teacher or other some sort of service industry, you can't do that if you are depleted. You just can't. And you didn't get into this fields to just kind of hang out. You go into these service fields because you want to make a difference in this world, because you want to make impact. And you can't possibly make impact if you are running on empty with your check engine light on. It's just not going to happen. And so I think what happens is with the folks I talk with, we know this, like in our heads. We know, we all joke, oh yeah, I know, Jen, put your own oxygen mask on first, but it doesn't translate to action. So can you talk a little bit about what you share with the people you work with about how to integrate that into their lives?
Yep. So one of the things I teach you is a morning routine. And that's really important because how you start the day is going to determine how the rest of your day will go. And so when you actually take that time for yourself in the morning, you're grounded, you're well rested, your mind is in a different spot than if you just get up, I'm checking my phones, I'm checking on my kids, and I'm out the door and I'm frazzled Sally, right? Like we want to actually reverse that so that it becomes normal to, okay, do I only have 15 minutes in the morning to do that for myself? Okay, then I'm going to wake up 15 minutes earlier because I'm important to me and I'm going to take that time to ground myself. And in any spiritual practice, the morning is the most important because that's when our minds are the most open. So we're able to receive. So when you start your day, there's a reason why meditation works. No one wants to do it. It's not because it's fun while you're doing it. It's because of the benefits that we get from doing it and the benefits throughout the day. And then that's going to affect other people because your energy is completely different. So that's one of the things that I teach. And it's very important. And oh my gosh, and mothers, they'll challenge me and like, Tal, I don't have the time. I was like, I bet you can find the time. I bet you can.
Well, because it's easy to just say, I don't have the time. But when you say I don't have the time, what you're actually saying is that it's not a priority. And that is the truth, And the thing is, I actually had a conversation on another podcast episode, 25, with Amelia Nagowski. And she also made a comment about this too, is when you take that time for yourself, you need to be able to be in a community, whether it's your family or whatnot, where they protect that time for you just as much as you protect that time for them. So if you're taking that 15 minutes in the morning, your kids are not only not bothering you, but they are preventing their sibling from coming into the door because they know how important that is. And that to me is so powerful. That's how important this can be.
So important. And it's because you've now set the standard. That's your boundary.
Yes.
Mommy's not available during this time, right?
Yeah. And everyone's going to survive.
Yes.
Yeah. And if they're bleeding from their head, then they can wait 15 minutes. It's fine. You're fine. So I always ask everyone at the end of the interview, based on the work that you bring to this world, what is your dream for the future of education?
When we're kids, I feel like we are so in our light and we do take up space. And then as we get older, we're told, like you said, we have to constrict. We need to play small. And so my dream for education is that you continue to shine, even as you go into middle school, even as you go into high school, that you understand that it's okay to take up space, that I am special, but you're special as well. You're not bragging because you think you're awesome, because you also think other people are awesome too. And I think that when we come into the world in that way, then we can be unapologetic about who we are, but not from this place of I'm better than you. Just that I know that I'm fantastic, but you're fantastic too. It's just such a different energy.
Yes. And what's interesting is that now I only surround myself with people who understand that, who I can feel safe saying, I am friggin' fantastic,
Yes.
without being fearful that someone else is going to feel bad because my light's so bright. Because what they do is they say, yeah, Jen, get it. Yeah, you are.
Love it.
And I do the same for them. In saying this out loud, which I always, when we share our dreams, I think we're one step closer to achieving them. And I hope that the more people that foster those kinds of relationships and encourage other people to take up space without it feeling threatening to them, because it's not.
Mm-hmm.
Unsubscribe to that story too, please.
Yes.
That's really how we all shine.
Absolutely.
It's beautiful.
And that's how we contribute to the world. You're doing a disservice to yourself by not shining.
Right. And the world. Step up, shine bright. Sounds like a t-shirt.
I'd buy one.
Yeah, it happened here. Yes. Step up and shine bright. Well, this has been fantastic. I so enjoyed this conversation with you, Tal. And I would love for you to share with the listeners today how people can learn more about you and get in touch.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. This has been an awesome conversation and I think much needed during this time. So you can get in touch with me. Instagram is the way to go. You can find me at the Tal Yardeni. If you are currently going through a breakup or you have questions around relationships, feel free to DM me because I respond to everybody that messages me unless you're like spam. But otherwise, feel free. And like we talked about before, I have a group coaching program called the Breakup to Badass Formula. So I offer it in a group setting. And then I also offer it one-on-one because I know that this work can be really vulnerable. And sometimes we don't have the capacity to hold space for others as we're navigating a really difficult time. So I give the option of both. And then I believe in the show notes, we have my free guide, The 4 Ways to Move Through Heartbreak. It's really great guide. It's 4 tangible steps that you can take right away that'll just really help you as you start this healing journey.
Amazing. Yeah. All of those things, including your Instagram handle, will be in the show notes. So it'll be super easy for people to get in touch. Thank you again, Tal. This has been great. And I hope to continue these conversations. It's been really good to talk to you.
Yes, likewise.
So if you enjoyed today's episode, make sure you subscribe, share with a friend, and write an awesome review. And we'll see you next time on Take Notes. Incredible, right? Together, we can revolutionize the face of education. It's all possible, and it's all here for you right now. Let's keep the conversation going at Empowered Educator Faculty Room on Facebook.